Hello everybody, and welcome back to a MirkLurk tutorial. So, pick up where we left off, we're going to talk about survival skills, we're going to talk about basic crafting, and a few tips and tricks. Originally this was going to be a two-part series, however, I spent the entirety of part one explaining stats, going over systems, and I still have yet more to go over in this one before I can give you tips and tricks. So this is actually going to probably be a three-part series with the third part being only tips and tricks. Now, with that, we're going to go ahead and cover a few more things out here in the world. Once again, this is the little starting area. This is where you land. You gain access to these two areas by completing certain quests for this lady here and another NPC, and the mage who is down here in the basement. These spikes, as you can see when I hover over them, I get a big red X. If I step on this, I am going to take well-being damage. The type of hazard determines how much I'm going to take. Be careful. Autopathing sometimes will screw up, especially if you get a little bit quick on your clicks. It might just decide, oh, you wanted to click here? Well, we're going to move you here instead. So just be a little careful with how you choose to go walking, right? All right, so we're outside. It is currently a comfortable temperature. That means that this should not be going down very much, if at all. It means that it is currently the afternoon. So you can see the day-night. The sun will go across the sky. The moon will go across the sky to determine what time it is. And it will give you a turn counter until it is dusk. In the beginning of the game, you are not allowed to be in this safe area here after dark. If you are, they thump you over the head and they kick you out. All right. On the ground, we can see all the terrain here, and there's all kinds of stuff on the ground. These little bags here are items that either were dropped by me, well, they're always dropped by me, but sometimes you have items like this, which fell off of a tree, like a branch. So, context-wise, this has nothing. This highlights. This highlights this campfire, which I put down. These trees, you can highlight their base, and you can go and start chopping down the tree. It is interactive. When you go to chop down a tree, you pick, do I want to chop this branch off? Do I want to chop this part of this branch off? Do I want to chop the whole tree down? Can I chop the whole tree down? Because it requires AP, and that AP scales based on a very important stat that we're going to discuss right now. And that is the harvest stat. All the items have different harvesting uses. This axe has a 1.0 modifier for harvesting flesh, skin, things like that, but a 3x multiplier to the AP used for harvesting trees. Fairly straightforward. It's easier to cut down a tree with an axe than a knife. So, you always want to make sure that you have the right tool for the right job. We'll go ahead and demonstrate this here in a moment. Next up, this right here looks like a pile of stones on the ground. It looks like it might just be part of the background. It is not. Down here, we have the ability to search/examine, or the hotkey X. If we search or we hover over something with it active that can be searched, the icon changes to this. We will rummage around on the ground and we will see what we can find. These context clues change based upon what you are dealing with. There are 3 stones here. There are probably 3 stones or 2 stones and a piece of flint or whatever on the ground. Only 2 here, same difference. There's only a single branch looking thing here. There's probably not a lot of wood here. But if there was a ton of wood, this would look like a whole pile. Over here, we have what looks like a log. You'll find some moldy wood here and maybe some other stuff growing on it, like mushrooms, right? You can also do this for creatures that you have direct line of sight to. If you do it and you're in range and have direct line of sight, it will consume 4 AP, and after you do it a couple times, you will get the ability to know what that creature is, what it does, health, resistance, stuff like that. You can also do it on stuff like this in order to harvest the grass. This is very important, especially in the beginning of the game, and we'll go over this in the tips and tricks. So, we're going to go ahead and go back here real quick. So you can see here, I can go behind the building. Now, this corpse is a dead crab. These guys killed it, not me. If these NPCs get too close, these guys whip out crossbows and go to work. Now here we can see that it has this crab meat on it. But it would cost me 6.8 AP in order to harvest it. I don't have that much AP, so I'd have to wait a whole turn and then use up most of a turn to do this. But if I choose a tool like this, it's still 6.8. Now it's 2.8. And that's because this knife has a 2.4 multiplier to harvesting meat and harvesting skins. So again, right tool for the right job. Now we're going to go ahead and engage this crab here real quick. This is the health of the crab. In fact, before we engage this crab, here we go. So I have already examined crabs. I know what they are. So as you can see here, this is called a boulder crab. It does 2 points of melee damage in a line. It is considered piercing damage. It can only move 2 tiles per turn. It's not very likely to be hostile, and it will only get hostile if you get within 2 tiles of it, and it has a 10% chance to just dodge your attack outright. As you can see here, it has 4 points of health and 4 shields. Each point of shield is armor that you have to break through. So, as I mentioned before, my character currently has a knife, but knives actually don't do very good against armor. We'll go ahead and switch to it real quick. You can kind of see it. It's really faint, but you see that little plus, that 2 arrow up? That 2 arrow up means that when I strike, I will deal 2 points of damage right here, breaking 1 to 2 pieces of armor, depending on how much armor they have, or potentially just outright killing them, right? If they're on health, it will also apply, or can apply, a bleed effect. This bleed effect will sit here, and at the end of the turn, it will go in whatever direction you choose. So I'm choosing right, down, left, up. By right-clicking, I can change the direction of my strike. So if I put it here, if he had no armor, I put the bleed here. At the end of my turn, this tile would go away, it would die. This tile would get a bleed on it, and then at the end of the next turn, this tile would die, right? Pretty straightforward, but we're not going to use that because, unfortunately, again, he is armored. Instead, we're going to use our axe-based weapon here. So, we do not have enough AP, so we're going to go ahead and wait the turn. He is now hostile to me. My health pool pops up, and now I get to put my armor on and defend my hit points. Depending on how much armor you invest into a point, it can grow. That's 1 point, 2 points, 3 points. So therefore, right now, this would take 4 points of damage to break. We're going to go ahead and only put 1 point of armor, because we saw he only does 1 point of damage per attack. We are also going to put 1 point here. We don't really care about this cross-section, because if this cross-section goes away, oh well, no big deal. We'll use a healing item to make it up. I will put a point here, and I'll put a second point here. This way, it makes it so that when he attacks here, one of his points of attack is always wasted. He does 1 point of damage. He has to attack this 3 times to break it, or 3 rounds. You can also click the randomize button. Kind of a your choice. Alright. So, here we can see I can attack however I want. I'm going to attack like this. I got lucky. I did 1 point to each of these. And the 0 to 1, I had a chance to do the 1, and I did. I succeeded. So I did the 1 point. Now, I've used up 6 AP. I can't do anything else. I end my turn. My stamina goes up because I had leftover AP when I ended my turn. He attacked me, dealt a point of damage. I'm going to go ahead and swing again, break the last armor, broke 1 point of health, and unfortunately this was a 0. He attacked me here, broke armor, took a piece of health. And now I managed to kill him. Got 25 XP, and here is his corpse. Unfortunately, I was hoping that I would be able to get multiple meats, but we'll go find another enemy to do that. Now, as we can see here, I now have the energy low debuff. That is because my stamina has dropped below 25%. This means that when I do any action, walking, attacking, whatever, there's a chance that I'm going to fall down, or if I'm using one of my tools, there's a chance that I'm going to hurt myself and lose 1 well-being. This will go away by just resting, just like that. It is very, very important that you keep in mind your well-being and your stamina. If this hits 0, you will die. So here we're going to go ahead and examine the ground. We found nothing of value. That means there's no moss, no wood, no nothing here, which is actually kind of strange. There should have been, but whatever. As you can see here, I can't scroll off to the side to look around. So I have no idea what was going on down here. I have no idea that this creature was here and that they killed it. Unless I use Scout. This costs AP and extends my field of view about 3 tiles, I would say. It can't go off the map, so this is the edge of the map, so I can't go off the map. But it's 3 tiles, so now I can look down and look up. It's more than 3 tiles, so it is like 6 tiles to look down. I can see these 2 enemies. Ooh, I can see this guy. This guy is dangerous. I cannot both scout and examine at the same time. Turning on examine turns off scout. Something to keep in mind. Looks like the enemies are the NPCs are killing that creature for me. So that was called a razor fin or whatever. It's a very dangerous hunting creature that literally does not give you anything for killing it. No loot, no nothing. Alright, so next up we're going to talk about honey and salves and how to get them. On the ground here, as we can see, I can search. I can find roots like this. And once I'm done, that goes away. And then you have trees with glowing, buzzing beehives. Now, to harvest this tree would be impossible, even with my axe. But this branch here, as you can see, I hover over the branch, 2.6, 0.6, 0.4. The smaller the piece of wood you're trying to cut off, the less AP it costs. I can't take off this branch or this trunk, but I can take this one dead branch here and take that branch, it falls to the ground. All the wood that it contained fell with it, but also the honey. There's the honey, there's the beeswax, here's the branch. The branch, as you can see, is slightly wet. This matters for the next thing that we're going to talk about, which is making fires. We're going to just go ahead and gather up all this wood here. Now, opening inventories on the ground and doing stuff like this, picking up stuff, thankfully does not cost any AP. If it did, it would be a disaster. So we're just going to go ahead and take all this, and now you can see the icon for the wood changed slightly as we gained more wood in this stack. Hover over the tree, and you can see this kind of shaded area right here, right? This is coverage. This means while you're underneath this, you're going to get less rained on than if you were out in the open. It also means that if you put a fire under this tree, there is going to be less water falling and putting the fire out quicker. So we're going to go ahead and grab all this wood. We're going to open up our crafting menu, which you see here is V. These are the things that you can always make at all time. Right? You can make a wooden shield, wooden club, some cheap arrows, a cheap bow, a campfire, which is what we need, a improvised bandage, which will stop yourself from bleeding, can be very important later on, Firewood, which is made from logs that you can only get by cutting down the whole tree. A torch, which is needed to see in the dark, but also can set enemies on fire. That is very important for enemies that can regenerate health, because if you burn the health square, it cannot be regenerated. Twine, which is made from harvesting plant fibers on the ground, this stuff right here. A raft base, this is a new thing in the most recent update. We can now create a small raft to go out on the water without having to swim. As you can see there, that's the AP cost to go into the water. 1.6 and then 2.4 for tier 2 depth, 2.4 and then 5.4 AP. You will very quickly run out of stamina if you go swimming in deep water. The Hidden Hollow, which is basically just a very tiny storage chest, and then something for if you get burned by fire damage yourself. Pretty useful, keep it in mind, but at the moment at least, we're not going to need to go over it. So, we're going to go ahead and go talk about the fire, and we're going to go talk about cooking food. We're going to go over here. As you can see there, I had to climb that hill. It cost extra AP to climb it. We're going to go ahead and cut off this branch. Don't worry about cutting off too many branches, because branches will grow back at night. Also, you can just hit the R key to loot all if you want. Problem is that sometimes you will pick up something that you don't want, like twigs. And the twigs will go somewhere and take up an inventory space that you would have otherwise liked to have used for branches. So, something to keep in mind when you're trying to Jenga your inventory, basically, is to make sure that you put things in such a way that it makes sense. Like that. Now I've gained a whole extra thing for picking up wood. There it is. So it fell on this tile where this bag already was, where this moldy wood was, and so it almost got hidden, but thankfully it did not. Alright. Now we have the fire crafting interface. Fire requires 3 things. It requires a striker stone. In this case, I will be using flint. This is the best way to start a fire that I am aware of at the moment. It does have a 1% chance to break every time you hit it, but it contributes a 25% chance to spark and thus start a fire. Next up, you need the striker, the actual tool you're going to be using. So my knife here gives me a 25% chance to strike a spark. My axe is 15. I will be using my knife. I now have a base plus 50% chance to start a fire. Then you have the wood. If you choose wood that is wet, this will apply a negative penalty to the wood and make it harder to start the fire. So here it's 50. I have 9% from this skill right here, 3% per level. I strongly encourage at the very beginning of every game you put points into this. And we'll go over that more in the tips and tricks. But so now I have a 59% chance that I will create a fire. And it costs 1 AP to try. Using different woods makes no difference. Okay? Alright, so we'll go ahead and use this wood. If you hover over it, it tells you how many turns it burns for. Twigs only burn for 0.4. Branches burn for 1.2. Moldy wood for 2. Firewood 3.6 or something like that. I don't remember off the top of my head. So, keep in mind, every time you strike, 1 AP. But now you can see we've created a fire. The fire adds a base chance to make more fire. 4% because it's burning for 0.4. So now I have a 63% chance. This burns down as this goes down, as you use more AP. So if we fail here, which we did not, this would have gone down. So it's currently gone down by 0.12, which is not quite exact math. I don't know why it's 8 AP and not 10 AP and then balanced accordingly, but this went down by 0.12, which is a fraction that almost coincides with a full AP bar. We succeeded, so now we're at 6.8. There, we failed, so now it went down. Right? Pretty straightforward. We're going to go ahead and use this piece of mosswood, which succeeded. So now we have 2.4 turns, which means the chance to start the fire, or keep the fire going, went up by 24.2. It is almost always better to try and start a fire with the biggest piece of wood you have. Firewood the biggest, then branches, and then feed it twigs. This is going to be the most AP efficient because each usage is always 1 AP. Always. So you put it in a big log, you strike it 8 times with a 30% chance to start a fire. You probably start that fire and you get a couple turns to keep feeding that fire and benefit from this plus whatever percentage. All right. So finally, the last thing we're going to go ahead and cover is cooking food. Over here you can see I have different things that I can make on the fire. Bugs and frogs and beetles and even fried eggs if you find some chicken eggs. I'm going to go ahead and end my turn, get a full thing of AP, and I'm going to craft all of my snake meat and all of my crab meat. And oh, we can see here, my fire went out. You always got to be wary of losing your fire and running out. Also, once your fire is lit, you can, if you get it high enough, as you can see here, it's a 40% chance, you can actually take away these items and not have it impact your chance to create a fire. We're going to go ahead and show that real quick. Oop, see here I cut myself because my stamina is at 0. Just go ahead and rest and regain my stamina real quick. There, so now I take away my weapon. Oh, there we go. And now I still have a 78% chance that feeding the wood to this fire is going to cause it to succeed. And it does not consume anything else. And there we go. Now, as we can see here, my inventory is full, so I will have to pick all this up, unfortunately. Holding shift highlights everything you can pick up on the ground. Don't know why that bag doesn't go away, but that's okay. You can stand on campfires without burning yourself, which is kind of nice. There it goes. Okay. Alright, and that's about it. Now, as we can see here also, the risk of sickness did go down. Bug meat, it's now only 3%. Snake meat, it went away. And crab meat, it went away. So very important to cook your meats if you can. But in a pinch, eat it raw. It's better to eat it and take a risk on certain foods than to not have it at all. We're going to go ahead and eat that. We're going to recover a little bit, get our sat up, and then we're going to go ahead and place our tent. We'll cover this in the next video and explain why placement matters. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the final video for tips and tricks.